Workers afraid of the unvaccinated and demanding stricter measures. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.Heise here, and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Grab your morning stein of coffee. We're going to look at, an article or the results of a survey from Elmo discussing, this is an interesting one. Workers' fears and concerns. Australian workers' confidence in the economy and their job security plummets. Not surprising. Support for stricter COVID-19 measures at work soars. Support for stricter COVID-19 measures at work soars. Now, this is a little strange to me. I can't understand what's going on here, or I couldn't until I spoke to some viewers, and Rachel as well, who made some suggestions as to what is going on. So, the key findings, let's look at this. More Australian workers rate the economy as not secure than at any point this year. Yeah, I can agree with that. There's a lot of concern over the economy, particularly what we're seeing in the news with Evergrande and from China, power issues around the world. Everything's getting more expensive. Petrol's potentially at $2 a litre. So yeah, I can understand that. Perceptions of job security are at the lowest point this year, with less than half of Australian workers rating their job as secure. That's an issue. That's probably more important than many people realize, because that's going to inhibit people's ability to go and spend some money. You'll be safe. You'll be cutting back. I'm on a carnivore group there, and someone was asking for suggestions on how to save money because their income's going to be hit. So I'm sure there are a lot of people that are a little worried, and hopefully they're being sensible and preparing that emergency fund. Support for employers mandating COVID-19 vaccinations soar 8 points to 70% of workers backing the initiative. 70% of workers want employers mandating vaccinations, everyone. 70%. Employers knowing employees' COVID-19 vaccination status is supported by 88% of workers. Test status knowledge is supported by 90%. Vaccination passports have also been welcomed by 4 in 5 Australian workers at 79%. Now, I should remind those of you that are probably new, I'm vaccinated. I'm not worried about it. I've had no issues with it. But here's the thing. If you're concerned about these mandates, if you're concerned about maintaining your privacy, it looks like that's the minority opinion here in Australia now. Considering how much of a nanny state we are, how much of a dibba-dobba culture we seem to have, sadly this seems inevitable, to be quite frank. Show me your papers so you can work. Now the question is, do we want to remove all of these inhibits we have on the market with regards to discrimination in employment and then just let a free-for-all, or just make this as an exception with regards to workplace health and safety? That's going to be an interesting discussion, but I think the decision's already been made, at least by the majority of people. So, Australia's workers' confidence in the economy has plummeted to its lowest level this year, while the support for employer-mandated COVID-19 vaccinations and vaccination tracking has soared. The Elmo Employee Sentiment Index for the September quarter has found the proportion of Australian workers who rate economic security as not secure has spiked to 30%. This is an 11% point rise for the June quarter of 19 and March of 20, representing the greatest recorded this year. Workers in Victoria were the highest to report the economy as not secure at 34%, New South Wales at 31%. The Elmo Employee Sentiment Index is commissioned by Elmo Software and conducted by independent research firm Lonergan Research each quarter among more than 1,000 geographically dispersed working Australians. The poll data is weighed to the latest Australian Bureau of Statistics data. Workers are also cautious about the security of their industries, with a 5 percentage point decline in ratings of secure and a 4-point rise in workers considering their view as neutral. Less than half of working Australians believe their job is secure, with 46% rating their job as secure. This is down on both the March quarter high of 55% and the June quarter rating of 47%. The latest round of lockdowns and declining perceptions of economic security may be behind soaring support for tougher COVID-19 measures in the workplace. This has been an 8-point rise to 70% in support among working Australians for employers requiring their employees to be vaccinated against COVID-19, up from 62% in June. In a looming challenge for employers preparing to welcome back workers, the proportion of workers uncomfortable working alongside unvaccinated colleagues has climbed to 58%. That's a 14% rise from the June quarter. Now, I don't understand this. If you're vaccinated, why are you uncomfortable working next to someone who's unvaccinated? Why? That's what got me. I couldn't understand that. And some people reminded me of why that might be happening. On trend, with growing support for mandatory vaccinations in the workplace, Australians are comfortable with their employer knowing their COVID-19 vaccination and test status. Employers knowing an employee's vaccination status is supported by 88% of workers, while knowledge of test status is supported by 89% of workers. Passports have also been welcomed by 79%. The largest rise has been seen in perceptions of Australia's vaccination rollout, with 2/3, 66% of workers believing Australia is on track with its vaccination rollout. This is up significantly from the June quarter at 41%. This is going to have an impact on the election. If the only thing Labor can trot out is fear over a botched vaccination rollout at the next election, it's not going to matter. No one will care anymore. It'll be done. It'll be old news. They'll have to think about something else to talk about. If maybe housing affordability, maybe the push for significant immigration, 2 million more people coming to Australia in the next 5 years. We'll have to see. Lockdowns and feelings of greater insecurity may also be behind a quarter-on-quarter rise in the proportion of workers taking a mental health day. The September quarter saw 16% of workers reporting taking a mental health day in the past 3 months. This is up from 14% in the June quarter and 12% in the March quarter. Elmo Software CEO Danny Lessam says employers need to take heed of the message being sent by Australian workers. Australian workers are feeling more insecure than they have at any point so far this year. They are worried about the state of the economy, their industry, their jobs. It's up to the employers to try and allay their fears. Really? It's up to you as a worker. Or maybe this is the problem with my worldview. It's up to you as a worker to ensure you have buffers and you're prepared as best you can if you lose your job. You need to try and get multiple income sources so you're not dependent completely on one sector, on one job, on one position. Even if it's a side gig that just brings in a tiny little amount, just something to take the edge off. You know, even $50 a week, $100 a week, it may not sound like much, but if it's, if you lose your job and that's all you got, you'd be surprised how much food you could buy for that, how far you can make it go. And then that could be something you could grow into something else. You don't want to have all your eggs in one basket. The latest spat of lockdowns in New South Wales and Victoria may well be behind the drastic shift in perceived economic security. When it comes to working with the virus, Australian workers are supportive of their employer introducing tough measures to keep their workplace safe. Whether it's mandating vaccinations or taking vaccination and test status, the great majority of workers are on board. The message from working Australians is clear. They want to get the economy back on track, and they want their employer to lead the charge while it comes to working safely with the virus. A tough challenge is emerging for employers. The proportion of workers uncomfortable working alongside unvaccinated colleagues has climbed to 58% of the workforce. This is going to take consultation and a deep dive into the data behind the workforce to understand how to move forward. The Employee Sentiment Index has also found a double-edged sword for employee well-being and mental health. The proportion of workers taking mental health leave has climbed quarter on quarter this year. Well, it's not surprising. This year's been crazy. While it's positive that people are prioritizing their mental health, it is alarming that more and more people are struggling with their mental health. Well, can you imagine maybe being forced into lockdown after lockdown? But here's the reason why I think a lot of this is happening. It's the media fear. This is an article from, yesterday. She was in school next week. She was in a coma. Victorian teens COVID ordeal. And you can see here the poor girl was just in school, and the media is full of this stuff, full of this fear. Again and again. The media has a big part to play in just amping up the fear and concern. So people I would argue, may have a disproportionate concern of their risks that they're presented. But let's have a talk about this, guys. Here's the thing. People suck at evaluating risk. They're completely terrible at it. And, I mean, one would argue that's by design. You need to, lean towards caution, particularly in a survival status. But remember, we are artificially flooded with negative news. As a YouTuber, I know negative news gets views, gets eyeballs. I've seen it. I'll do a positive article, no one will watch it. You do something negative, everyone watches it. Look at all the economic doom and concern. How many views that gets compared to a good news piece? It's no different here. This is why the media will focus on scare tactics on the news. Maybe they think they're doing it, the reporters think they're doing it for the greater good, to encourage more people to overcome their concerns and get vaccinated in this particular instance. But we know it's to increase advertising revenue. That's why I think you've got people who are scared of working next to someone who happens to be unvaccinated. What if they've got a medical condition that means they can't get it? Are you going to keep away from them in the workplace? If you've done everything you can to protect yourself, just live life. Is that so strange? Maybe there's been more mental health damage to all of us through this process in the last 2 years than we realize. And it's going to take a few years to figure out. You're seeing those articles now appearing where people say, I hate lockdown, but I'm not ready to give it up. It could also be, from our perspective here in Queensland, we've had very little impact on our day-to-day lives. Not as much as some of the other states. And as someone who also works completely from home, it really hasn't had a drastic impact on myself. So that could be why I'm not feeling it as much as other people. And honestly, a younger person in their 20s who's probably used to going out at that time of their life where they should be out meeting people, socializing, it's probably going to be a lot harder on them than the middle-aged family man living in the suburbs. So I've got to appreciate that. But then that probably exacerbates the mental health issues that we're seeing. Honestly, I think the best strategy forward is for people to realize and weigh up the risks and understand what the media is doing and why they're doing it, so they can at least appreciate what's happening. And hopefully that can be steps to alleviate their, frankly, irrational fears that they may have. What do you think? As always, thank you for watching. Like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you're a fan and enjoy the content I find and put together here, there are a few ways you can help us out. You can join our live stream channels on Twitch or HeiseSays Live. You can support us by financially by signing up for YouTube as a member or for Patreon. You can use our referral links at Stake or SelfWealth, where if you sign up for SelfWealth, we both get 5 free share trades. You can also use our referral links at Amazon, eBay, Independent Reserve, or AussieBroadband, buy a merch from HeiseSays, use Gold Pass from the Perth Mint, or support us via PayPal. Take care, have a great day, and calm down at work.